Hello everyone, welcome to 2 and 3D. Okay, so we are going to be converting our this NBA player character into an Adobe character animator puppet. And okay, so this is how we'll do it. I'll make it as simple, as easy as possible for you so that you can actually follow. So first thing we need to do is I'm just going to ditch Adobe Character Animator for now. Let's just switch to our browser. So I can find my browser. Good. So now, okay, so now we are just going to Google Doncic, and this is the guy who will be converting into an Adobe Character Animator puppet. So the best thing you need to do is what you need to do is you need to get an image of your character facing this way. So this is a good image, but this is an old image. I think now he plays for the Lakers. So we're just going to look for an image. Okay. So this works. Let's use this one. Okay, but now his face is not really clear, so we cannot use this one. Let's see this one. Let's see this one. I think this one should work fine. I think. This is his Instagram account. Okay, this picture. No, no, no. Okay, yeah, I think this one works. Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to save this on our computer. So save as, not save as rather. Okay, so I cannot save it directly from Instagram. What I will just do is I'll print screen the entire thing. Just going to print screen, grab the entire image, and then now we'll be moving into Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so now in Adobe Illustrator, you can choose whatever artboard you want. The view box doesn't really matter. I'm just going to click on A4 and then create, and I can just paste in our image. So Control V, and we'll have our image right here. So good. Now let me zoom into his face just to ensure, well, it's kind of pixelated, but I think we can still make this work. Okay, let's zoom out. Okay, so let's just zoom out, and then now I will be using my drawing tablet. I only drawing tablet. You do not necessarily need one. You could use your pen tool and trace around this, but I think if you can afford it, I would recommend you get one, because it will really ease your work a lot. Okay, so I hope the audio is clear enough, because I'm a bit far from my mic. But okay, so now we have this layer. This layer is where our art is, where our image is. So I am just going to click on this and create a new layer. Now select this layer. We go into isolation. We go into isolation so that we could just concentrate on this layer, because this is where we're going to be drawing. Alternatively, you could come and add in, maybe add in something like this, and then we reduce the opacity and you get something similar, but I think that is unnecessary. So I'm just going to delete that. This, you can lock this layer because we're not going to be touching this layer anymore. So just select this layer and then enter into isolation. And now what we'll be concentrating on is our character's face one. Okay, so we're going to be drawing his face, but we are going to be cartoonizing this character. So the character is going to be cartoon-like. Well, he's not going to look as realistic, like he's not going to look like a real character, like a real person. So this image, will find a way to move some things around just to make sure, try to put, like, to add in exaggeration into his physique so that the character will look more cartoon-like. Unlike if you just trace this character, if you just trace this character and just use the trace version to look too realistic, and that's not the point of what we're about to do right now. We're supposed to cartoonize this character a bit. So trace our character, just trace around. So we have something like, okay, you select this, you select your brush. Initially, before, what I use normally is the blob brush. Normally I use the blob brush, but I found a way to use the paint brush and still have pen pressure, because the reason why I use the blob brush initially, why I used to use the blob brush, was because the blob brush comes with this pen pressure. It comes with stylus. So you could see when you're drawing, it mimics the pressure on that you're applying to your pen. So that's pretty cool, and it makes your art makes it way better than just using the standard brush that doesn't really have doesn't have the pen pressure. But I found a way to actually add in pen pressure to just your regular paintbrush tool. So you select your paintbrush, you select the color, you can select whatever fidelity this is. When, okay, I don't know if this is displaying. I need to check my screen just to make sure this is displaying. Okay, it's not displaying. That is not good. So what I have around, what I'm holding currently, is the paintbrush tool option. You can get to that by double clicking your paintbrush tool. So if you double click this, you get a panel, a paintbrush tool option panel. So there's fidelity there. Fidelity is part of the options. You have fidelity, you have options for fill, new brush stroke, keep selected, and whatever. So if you move the fidelity downwards a bit, I just wish there's a way I could display this. I don't know. Let me see, because this is kind of important. I don't think there's a way for me to display this, and I don't know why it's not capturing it. But okay, so just try it on your own end, and maybe be able to get to this option that I'm talking about. So there's the paint brush tool option, and you can move, when you move this fidelity, when you move it down towards smooth, what you get is your brush will have less anchor points. So okay, so right now, if you notice, the anchor points are kind of, they're not much. You can count them. I think just by looking at it, this should not be more than 20. But if you double click and then you increase it to accurate, and then you press OK, if I do the same thing here, you can see the anchor points are much, because now it's adding so much details. So with this option, with the fidelity option, you'll be able to determine how much detail your brush will be able to produce. So for now, I am just going to keep it at accurate and then OK it, because I want the brush to have as much detail as possible, because we are about to trace a character. So I'm just going to select what I've done so far, delete this, and then select our layer again. Now you come to this option. Okay, this option here, you double click on this, and you get another option that is not displaying, unfortunately. Another option that is not, that's the calligraphic brush options. And all you need to do is to come down to size, make sure your size is at 5 or whatever number you think it's, like whatever number you want. And make sure you click on this fix and make sure it's on stylus wheel. So when it's on stylus wheel, you come to variation and you increase variation to 5. Okay, I'm going to repeat this one more time. Okay, so you select your brush that is your paint brush tool. You select that. You come here, select whatever color you want to use. I will be using black because it's an outline, trying to draw the outline of the character. So you select that, then you come to this part here, that is this paintbrush option thing. You click on it, and you get these options. You double click on this one, this dot. You double click on it, and then you get an option that is not displaying, but it will be displaying on your own end. So you have these calligraphic brush options, and under this calligraphic brush options, you have size. You you add in, you edit and add in whatever number, whatever pt point, whatever amount, like the size of this will be, this will determine the size of your brush. So this is the maximum size of your brush when you're drawing. That's when you are pressing your brush down, and next to it is fixed. So you click on fixed, and then you select stylus wheel. Stylus wheel is going to ensure that this brush comes with an extra use. I don't know, use is not the right word, but it's going to ensure that your brush will now have pen pressure. So you make sure you select variation, increase that to 5, so that 5 is the maximum variation of your brush, and then the lowest 8 will now be 1 or 0.1 or something like that. I think it's a float number also. So now you press OK, and now when I'm drawing on my canvas, you can see it's mimicking, it's creating kind of pen pressure sort of, even though we are just using one brush. And the reason why this is kind of good, this is kind of necessary for you to do, I think this option, using your paintbrush tool instead of using the blob brush, the reason why this is more advantageous is because you end up getting, like, your svg file or your whatever file you're exporting it in would not take as much space. It would take less space because, for instance, if I'm drawing and it will be easy for you to edit your characters or whatever you're drawing. So right now, if I click on this, it's just one pivot line, one anchor point all through. Like, it's just one anchor point. So I can actually drag this around and morph it, move it however I want, like change the shape of the lines that I'm creating with just by just manipulating one anchor point like that. But if you are using the blob brush, what you end up getting is you end up getting two lines. So you get two lines, you get a line here, you get a line here. So it will be a bit difficult for you to manipulate these around, to move these around, as much as it will be as easy as it will be if you were using just your paintbrush tool. See, right now I can manipulate this as easy as possible, but you cannot do the same for this. So it's really incredible. Okay, so now that I've introduced you to our paintbrush, blah blah blah, so let's move on now to our tracing. So we're going to be tracing our character, and then we will now use the trace version to draw a cartoony version. I think this would actually make it really easy for you to follow, especially for those that are not that are not very good with drawing. So just select your layer, and we're in isolation, remember. Okay, so now I'm just going to trace through, and this image is not the best quality. I think we need to get something that is less pixelated, because this is actually going to, it will now make you to, you now be the one determining some things. You have to think and think, and your creativity have to pop through here, whereas you could just be tracing. So I think I will go with another image. I am just going to search for another image, and I think I'll add that because this image is too pixelated. Okay, so this is the image that I'll be using. I'll use this image to draw just a character face, and then I'll work on the body using the other image. Okay, so let's just select our layer. That's the draw layer. That's our layer 2. Select it, enter into isolation mode. Now let's draw his face. And you can see the face is actually really, it's big and it's kind of tree. You make sure you select an image that is 3/4. Is it 3/4? Yes, 3/4. Yes, it's 3/4. That is, the character is not facing forward and the character is not facing sideways. It's in between sideways and facing forward. So you select that one. That is the kind of image that you need to use, because that is way better than using frontal. You use frontal, your character, when you want your character to walk, it will be a bit weird to have your character facing forward and walking to the side. So it makes sense to actually use this proper. Okay, so now let's start tracing. I'm just going to do something like this. You do not have to, like, it doesn't have to be exactly. I don't know, I'm kind of cartoonizing the character already, but you could just trace exactly, like, just trace the character how it is. I'm kind of cartoonizing it already. So this here, I will not be using this here because this is actually, these are some of the things that you need to change to make your character a bit more cartoony. Okay, do something like this. Do something like this. Okay. Okay, so for his nose, we could do something like this, and all of this. And this is fine. Okay, so I'm kind of moving fast, but you could just slow down the video and follow, because I do not want this to take too long. So let's do something like this. Okay, I don't like this. I don't like this one. Okay, so all this while I've been using the blur brush, which is just unfortunate, but since we are in the tracing phase, you can use the blur brush if you want, but I will be going back to the paintbrush afterwards. That's when I'm actually doing the actual drawing. So since we're just tracing, it's fine. You can use the blur brush. So I'm just going to do something like this. Maybe do something like this, just so that I'll remember. Okay, so we have something like this. With hair. Okay, so let's do like this. Okay, I'm just going to select everything and group it. So Control G to group. Then I'm going to lock that. And then I'll do something like this for his neck. Okay, so now we have our character's face. I'm just going to group that. And I drew all this live, so I know I'm a bit fast, but so now if we just turn off this layer, okay, we missed his mouth, but you can see his image, like you can see that this is actually Doncic. Okay, so I'm going to reactivate it so that I can read, so I can draw his mouth, because I missed that. I missed that, and I'm going to be making. I'm not going to make his mouth. I'm just going to close his mouth. So I'm just going to do something like this. Okay, let's use the top lip. Let's use the top lip. I'm just going to do something like this. Okay, let's just see. Even though the mouth is a bit deformed, let's just see. Let's see. Remember to lock this layer. Okay. So his mouth, I think I need to bring it down a bit because in the image, I think he's saying something, or his mouth is a bit deformed, not in the regular position. So this is Doncic right here. I'm going to select the entire character, and I'm just going to I'm going to give it an outline color of, maybe, let's say, you can make it whatever color you want, but I'm going to make it orange. Then I'm going to lock that because now we're about to start actually drawing the character. So you can turn this up on if you want, but I will just I'll be turning it up just so that actually, so that it will look more cartoony. That's how I imagined in my head. I feel like if the actual reference image is below, for some reason psychologically I would want to draw that image instead of actually drawing something in my brain. So I'm just going to change the color now to black, and this is when you need to actually change your brush. If you haven't, if you used the blur brush instead of the paintbrush tool, this is when you need to change it back to paintbrush tool. I'm going to select that layer, and we don't need to go into isolation because there's nothing distracting us aside from this. You could create a new layer and go into isolation if you want, if you feel like this is distracting you a bit, but it's not, because I'll be drawing black over this light line, so it will not be an issue for me at all. Okay, so make sure it's black. Make sure you change your brush type to this. That's this dot, and just make sure your brush size is 5, stylus wheel is activated, and the variation is 5 also. So I'm just going to click that. Now if I go to, so now let's just delete that. Okay, so now we will be drawing our character, and if I turn this on, you can see that he has a thick brow, but I don't think I need to do that, because most likely what I will be, this character, his his face will be changing, like his brow will be moving. So we're actually going to be animating this character. This character will be animating it in character animator. So we need a puppet that, like, we need all these parts to be separate. We need his eyebrow to be separate, and his eyes to be separate, so that we'll be able to animate those. Because if those are not in a separate layer, if they're included, it means that you have to that with whatever it's included in the same layer with. So, but for now, I just remembered something. So we made his face big, make it very large, and we need to make it a bit. We need to scale it down a bit. So our character, we need to scale it down. So just imagine how his body is supposed to look, how big his body is supposed to be, and then scale it down. So let's say I'm using the entire artboard. The entire artboard is supposed to fit into the artboard. So now let me draw his body. Okay, so his body, let's deactivate that. Then let's say this is a character's body. Okay, so I will be back, but I think I have to pause for now. There's something that I need to attend to, but we'll be back and we'll continue this tutorial.